Well, let's talk to our correspondent, Rapelang Radebe. A very good evening to you, Rapelang. Thanks so much for joining us. Always good to talk to you, my brother.
So,
Rapelang, His Majesty King Letsie III is the AU champion for nutrition. Do you think, though, his tenure has made some headway in tackling this nutrition issue?
I want to believe so, absolutely, that really, I think his appointment, his nomination as the champion has actually brought a bit of a vibe because, the royalty there is not usually in the front face of lobbying of anything except for formal things. But his engagement, I think, understanding and seeing the situation of hunger and malnutrition, I think has sort of brought even the attention of the younger farmers who are now starting to hear it differently, especially because it now comes from His Majesty. So I think his presence in the scope has really opened up many to actually the shocking numbers that are coming of where Africa's status is when it comes to malnutrition and hunger.
So the role of the private sector, I guess, very important, particularly when it comes to financing the initiatives. Can government help find a working rhythm, do you think?
I want to believe so, absolutely, because, the government has been trying to do things and, many times the government, the processes take forever to actually coordinate things together. But I think them involving the private sector, then they have a role of just leveling the playing field. And if you look at how the private sector works, they are more result orientated and they are more number driven. They want to see the output, they want to see the performance. So I think the combination of the government playing a role of being a facilitator and leveling the playing field, and the combination of the private sector, I think it will go to a long way when say the triple P, the public-private sector development and the initiative. So I think it's a good start because if you listen to African Development Bank, they actually put the problem statement on the table and they come up with working solutions with the academia through a thorough research. So I think that's a good rhythm that can be developed. And you can see that there's a bit of a political will this time of the leaders beginning to understand the intensity of the problem.
So His Majesty will be delivering a keynote address. What are we likely to hear from him?
Yes, tomorrow I think it will be the culmination, and the call will probably and likely be the same. He has been keen on inviting younger people to see farming, make it fashionable. So I think his message will say, by the way, it's towards the end of his tenure in 2024. And I think he has really come down. He has visited the farmers, even in Lesotho, but he has gone across Africa really, trying to champion and actually raise on what needs to be done and the scope of the problem. And I think there's much more research and data that we are receiving. You can tell that at least he is shaken. So we hope that by the end of his tenure, maybe there will be some goodwill to ask him to come on board once more again.
All right. I know that a lot of data is being collected to look at this hunger malnutrition issue. What is the data being used for? There seems to be a lot of information, but is it useful?
You are absolutely right, because they keep bombarding us with the numbers. I mean, there are 50 million people, I think, struggling to afford the cost of a healthy diet. And I think the extrapolation of this data, putting it right onto the ground to understand the magnitude of this problem. It is able to invite the academia to come and give a proper research such that it is not just approached haphazardly, but you have some strategy. You can see some people can weigh the difference, because we see a lot of shift from 2010, like they were saying, with issues of the pandemic, which have really put back some of the goals, and saying there was a positive trajectory when it comes to addressing issues of hunger. But I think now with the data before our eyes, it's easier to know exactly how much effort needs to be done and what kind of budgets needs to be set aside by governments, and the priorities that they set aside, such that really, as they say, the Africa Agenda 2063 can be realized.
Lesotho certainly seems to have taken a front role in this nutrition issue across the continent. In fact, even at home, having a whole portfolio committee looking at nutrition. Talk to us a little bit about that and why it's so high on the agenda in the country.
It is. I think it brings a sort of fresh light, I think, that Lesotho considers. You know, when you talk about Lesotho, many times all you hear is about the prevalence of the HIV, hunger, and all the negative things. But I think if you look at the stamina and if you look at the demeanor on which the Prime Minister, as a farmer coming from the rural areas, he really is not just talking about agriculture, but he's actually practicing it. And I think the fresh crop of the ministers who are really mostly business driven, we hope this can yield and translate into real results. So yes, I think one of those times where you really expect to see Lesotho moving apologies.
Bless you,
Lesotho
bless
moving forward. Thank you so much. This is free street. It's getting so really. I think we are anticipating that we can see actions, not strategies, not boardroom drawings and calculations, but actual results coming through to address issue of poverty.
And this brings me to my last question: who is there? Because for things to happen, you need the right voices at gatherings such as this, people that can actually take action.
You're absolutely right. And this is, I think, what I found a bit lacking. We did not hear the voices in the opening of the actual farmers, the challenges that they come through. We were expecting that when we get there, we will see stalls and stalls of something that tells you that we are not just talking about nutrition, we are actually living it. So there was a bit of a lack. We perhaps hope tomorrow will be a much brighter, but as for today, it was a bit dull, and you really struggled to find the right information. You would want to see the young farmers who says, how do we actually partake? How do we raise our hands such that we are players? We are not just observers in this game.
Ntate Radebe, we'll leave it there. Ke a leboga, as usual. Thank you so much indeed.
Thank you.
One day I will see you play that guitar for me, my brother.
Wait for that day coming.
Thanks so much indeed. And I've just got a feeling he's probably got a good voice as well, singing country music. Who knows? Who knows? All right, that's where we're going to leave that for the time being.